Welcome to another interesting and entertaining video. Hello ladies and gentlemen. Juneteenth marks June 19. This day is primarily celebrated by Americans and is a holiday to commemorate the emancipation of African Americans from slavery in the US. The reason behind Juneteenth being 2 years later in 1865 is that although slavery was outlawed in 1863, a group of African Americans in Galveston, Texas did not receive the news that they were free until 1865. This led them to create a Juneteenth and celebrate this news. Juneteenth is important beyond the US because black people were enslaved under white rulership beyond the US. For example, many black people who reside in the UK are descendants of those from the Windrush generation. The Windrush generation migrated to the UK between 1948 and 1971 to help rebuild the country after World War II. The majority of these black people were Caribbean. These Caribbeans were descendants of slaves who were brought from Africa to islands like Jamaica by British slave masters to work as slaves under British colonial rule. In the US, slaves were brought directly from Africa to work in the US as slaves, also under British colonial rule. Black people were also enslaved in several other countries across the globe. This is why it's important to not view Juneteenth as simply an American holiday. The holiday is 156 years old as it began June 19, 1865. However, despite Juneteenth starting in the US, it is still relevant today internationally. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863 by President Johnson, and the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, was formally passed in the Senate on April 8, 1864, and the House on January 31, 1865. Celebrating Juneteenth in its early years was treated with high regard as African Americans moved around in their new freedom. Juneteenth moved from being an originally Texas-based celebration to a national one. People would dress up in military gear, there would be speeches from enslaved people and powerful black politicians, and hymns were sung. It would be a full-on official event. There would be discussions of registering to vote too, something which many of us today may take for granted, advertisements. These previously enslaved black people celebrating Juneteenth publicly was seen as an act of resistance. Even though the law was passed, the environment towards emancipation was still very hostile. It hasn't been a smooth sailing ride for black people from there onwards. The emancipation actually created a major humanitarian crisis where approximately 4 million former slaves were left without support to transition into living in their newfound freedom. If you want to get notified of our every video, don't forget to like, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates.